Live. So I have tonight the Battle of the Sidneys here tonight. We've got Sidney Marshburn and we have Sidney Smith. So guys, thank you for joining us this evening. And they are my guests, courtesy of Click Medical, the makers of the RevoFit adjustable system. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that this evening. And you guys are going to get a chance to ask both Sidneys all your questions about using an adjustable socket and staying active, because these two have written the book on that. So we're going to give you guys a couple of minutes to jump on board this evening. All right. And guys, I am broadcasting to both my YouTube and my Facebook pages. So you're welcome to watch me on either one. Those of you watching the replay, please feel free to give me a shout out in the comment section and say replay. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them there as well. I do go back and check to see the shows after we've shut them down to see if there's any leftover questions there. So we got Sean Brown on board. Guys, those of you who are new to my show, you have a small hazing ritual. You got to tell me who you are, where you're from, and what's in your mug. I've got my Click Medical mug, even though I'm drinking my Diet Coke. What do y'all got? Got my Yeti mug. Got yours? All right.
I don't have a Yeti mug. I just have it with water.
Cool kids. We got to get Jamie to send you one. All right. So guys, we're going to be raffling a few of these off this evening. Really nice Yeti mugs. So we've got Jill coming in from Berkeley. We got Sean from Jacksonville, Florida, fellow Floridian. We've got, a lot of people just jumped on board. Oh, this is going to be a good group then tonight. Excellent.
It's a party.
Uh-huh. All right, we got, that one down. Took that one down too fast. We got Starla there in Texas with her Dr. Pepper. We got Sean with his Publix green iced tea. There we go. And I know he's from Florida then. All right, we got Teresa. I haven't seen you in a while from Albuquerque. We got Marianne with water from South Dakota. Pastor David is on board, so it is a party, and he's got his tea. We got Kim there drinking boring water. That's okay. We'll still let you on board, Kim. We got Emily from Central PA. She's got her strawberry dragon fruit lemonade refresher. She always has the most interesting drinks. We got Patricia coming in from Naples. Eric with his lemon water watching me from the YouTube channel. We've got Felicia from Atlanta, and she's going to go grab her Click Medical Yeti. Okay, so she's already been a winner on the show. There we go. All right, guys, we're just going to give you another minute to jump on board this evening. Okay. And Sidney, where are you? You're moving this next week, right?
I am, yes.
But you're moving to, tell us about the move that you're making.
I will be moving from Murfreesboro, Tennessee to Denver, Colorado.
That's a bit of a jump. And is that going to be to help you get closer to kind of the ROMP headquarters?
It is, yeah. So my apartment's actually 7 minutes away. So I got really lucky when I was house hunting.
That'll be nice. That'll be nice. And then Sidney, where are you hunting right now? Or you were fishing. Last time I saw you, you were fishing.
Yes, it's the fall is for the hunting for me, but no, I am in Vernal, Utah right now, northeast corner, right by Colorado and Wyoming.
Excellent. All right, we got Gene. It's a party, guys. So we're going to go ahead and officially get started. For those of you watching the show for the first time, welcome. My name is Cosi. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. And as I mentioned earlier, we are having this show tonight courtesy of Click Medical. And we have two wonderful guests, Sidney Marshburn and Sidney Smith on board. Thankfully, Sidney Marshburn put on her last name there, so we'll be able to tell them apart when we're talking to them. Guys, don't be shy this evening. These folks have been through it, been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and they have wonderful life experiences that they will be sharing with us this evening, and also how they've been using the Click Medical RevoFit socket to help them get back to their very active lifestyles. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. Boy, that Diet Coke is really getting me this evening. All right. So we got Richard coming in from Arkansas with his French roast tonight. That's very nice. We got Chuck on board. We got Comadre there. Good to see you. All right, guys. So let's just talk a little bit about Click Medical and RevoFit. Unless you guys have been living under a rock, you guys have probably already seen one of my Click Medical shows either last year or this year. They've been a wonderful supporter of the show. And I got to say, when it comes to adjustable sockets, they are my favorite. So I'm just going to kind of pull out my demo socket here. They hooked me up here with this one. Okay. So they are the makers of the RevoFit adjustable system. So with the RevoFit adjustable system, okay, your prosthetist orders a kit like this, and it comes with all the parts that they need to build adjustability into your socket. Okay, this particular is a model socket, so it's got a lot of action going on. You can do a gap design, you can do a panel design, or you can do a hinge design. Okay, and the way they're controlled is with these little BOA dials or click reel, depending on the kind that you order. Okay. The panels loosen up. I got to keep it in the frame. It loosens up. You put the socket on, twist, 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 twist. And as you can see, it starts to tighten up. Now I loosened it a lot so that you could see on the camera how it works. But basically, this is how you adjust your socket. So instead of having to take your socket on and off 5, 6, 7 times a day to adjust the socks, all you have to do is just twist the dial and off you go. And now with the new click reel, you can forward adjust it to tighten it, and then you can micro adjust it to loosen it just a little bit at a time, which I really love that feature. So that's the Revo Fit. And guys, I have so many videos on the Revo Fit. I would encourage you to go to my YouTube channel and you can find all the videos there that we've done on the Revo Fit. Then we have the Revo Lock, which is one of their suspension system. Okay, so it's a mechanical lock system. We're going to be doing a whole show on suspension systems in August with Joe. He's the creator of the Revo Fit system. So we're going to be doing a lot of suspension on that show. And then we have the Revo Surface, which is the one I'm really excited about. That's this one right here. So basically, for those of you who are not due yet to get a new socket, but you want to put adjustability into it, the Revo Surface, it's a very similar kit that your prosthetist receives, and they can build it to your existing socket, which for me is just like game changer, especially for those of you who aren't sure if this is right for you, or you're not ready for a new socket yet, or maybe you really love the socket that you're in, you like the shape of it, and you just want to add the adjustability to it. All right. So that is Click Medical in a nutshell. Okay. And like I said, guys, I've done lots of shows with them. Go to the YouTube channel, check out all the details. It'll tell you who's a candidate for the Revo Fit, how you can talk to your prosthetist about this, how it works on a day-to-day basis for you. Okay. So I'm going to announce our first giveaway winner, and then I'm going to zip it and let the Sidneys take over the show. So guys, earlier this week, we sent out a new Click Medical quiz. And I really like this about Click Medical. They really like to learn from the community. They want to know what is it that what are your needs? How can they help you? And how can they improve their products to reflect that? So they're always putting out these quizzes that you see me sending out to you in emails and text messages. Okay. So we did a raffle on that, and our winner is Michael Davies. So I don't know if he's on board this evening, but Michael Davies, congratulations. We're going to be sending you a very, very nice Yeti Click Medical mug. All right. So with that said, we're going to let Sidney Marshburn, ladies first, is going to go this evening, start off with her story. So Sidney came to me with Click Medical, and we had a really nice discussion. And you have quite an interesting medical history that is not very common. However, we do have a lot of viewers on the show that share your medical history. So I'm going to let you take over.
Yeah. So my name is Sidney, and I am in above knee with my left. I lost it all years ago, a little over a year and a half. So it'll be 2 years in late August. I grew up, and I was an athlete, a student, and like very serious about everything I did. And then health started catching up to me, and I was with a genetic connective tissue disorder called Ehlers syndrome. And when I was diagnosed with symptoms, just essentially what Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a defect in collagen. So I am more mobile than most people. My skin is more elastic, locate things frequently, and that can be very painful whenever you get a joint. Yeah. So get to threatening, and for me, it went down the life-threatening path, if you want to call it that. So my skull started dislocating from the rest of my spine. It was gradual internal decapitation and severe brain depression. So I was always having all these worries, and it just kind of attributed to, you're an athlete, you're a butterflyer, your shoulders, they just come out. That's what, and it took a senior in high school when I fully diagnosed, and it was surgery after surgery. And so when I was a senior in high school, I had my first spinal fusion, and it was a spinal fusion which caused a rare complex regional pain syndrome. And so my leg would it would get blisters and get infected, and a lot last like 7 months at a time. It was very painful and it was very scary. On my last infection in August of 2021, becoming more septic-like. So they fast tracked and it had to go 36 hours later. So that kind of differentiates me between other people who have had. If you have no pain syndrome and you have usually, mine was selective. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing great, and I have active tissue disorder that's not going to go. But right now, the life been taken care of. So, balls to the wall is exciting, and I get to just live life. I've had years, so I'm just excited to be back and feel.
And that's amazing. Like I said, we do have quite a few viewers that have CRPS, and it's heartbreaking to hear sometimes the symptoms and the lack of quality of life as a result of having that pain. So to see someone like yourself who has such a successful outcome after the surgery, I know is going to be encouraging to many of my viewers. I got one question here. Let's see. Emily said, would it be helpful for someone who deals with lymphedema and deals with fluctuation and swelling? I was supposed to get my prosthesis today and tried it on. It didn't fit. My leg was a bit too swollen. So Emily, yes, in the sense that having an adjustability in your socket definitely is something for someone who fluctuates a lot in volume. Because you have that lymphedema, and I know that you're being followed by a lymphedema specialist, the biggest thing that you want to focus and make sure about is that there's not over compression in the socket. But you would have to be aware of that even if you were using socks as management. So that's something that someone who has lymphedema always has to be aware that they're not creating a tourniquet effect with the socket, whether they're using an adjustable one like the Revo Fit, or whether they're using socks to manage their fit. But great question. Let's see. We've got lots of people just starting to pour in some of their questions, so we'll try to see if we can keep up with this tonight. Sean says, just found out about these. I think people that are very active to know about the underliners. Yep. And been talking to the prosthetist about Click Medical. And Sean, one of the things I really love about this particular adjustable socket is I've seen the whole gamut of users with this socket. I see folks who are not very active that are getting some really great results because they have underlying medical conditions that cause a lot of swelling, a lot of shrinkage throughout the day. And then folks like both the Sidneys here, that they are on the other side where they're very, very active and they need the adjustability to help with their activity level. So Sidney, you're just out. I mean, less than 2 years out. Most of my patients, they're still undergoing limb volume changes from the actual surgery and remodeling. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So with my story specifically, contracted osteomyelitis, so a bone infection in my residual a few months after. So I had one bone edema and then just the swelling from that. So I weren't sure what my residual was going to do. Was it going to, just was it going to stay the way it was? I think I was after my of or just getting around to that year one PT where it actually started and it started shrinking. Especially I was a late bloomer, if you want to think that way. And now I got my socket back in and now ready for a new one. And I was months ago, but insurance.
All that kind of, yes.
Has been extremely helpful to just to continue being able to put my leg on.
And this is something that for my folks who are new to being amputees that are still in those first couple of years, I think this is a huge frustration I run into with my patients is what's going on with my limb? Why is it shrinking? Why is it changing so much? I finally get a comfortable fit in the socket and now it doesn't fit anymore. It's too loose. So it's nice to see that something like this Click Medical socket can work for someone who's new to being an amputee. And it's a lot less frustrating than having to learn how to manage all those socks throughout the day. Let's see. Sean says, I really want to get back to long distance running. Sean, stick around because Mr. Sidney is going to tell you a little bit about that a little bit very shortly. I do apologize, guys. I know there's sometimes a little bit of the sound cutting out. Sometimes when we have more than 2 people on the show, sometimes the sound cuts in and out. So we will try. If there's something that you guys want to ask either of the Sidneys, please put it into the comments section. And if you can't hear their particular answer, let me know and we'll try to kind of translate and get those answers out there with the sound and audio. Let's see. So Sidney, tell us now a little bit about the activities that you've been able to get back into.
Yeah, so when I was little, I made a promise to myself to just say yes to everything and see where. And so, very, very exciting. I met Click Medical Mindset, and they've been so great. I actually made a cycling, and I was not beforehand that say yes to everything, and so I did 37 the Rocky Mountains before my 1-year post-op, and yeah, I've always been an active person. I love really just any sport, and right now I'm really excited. Hopefully, start training for the para-alpine ski. And Denver, I hear Colorado is a great place to do that.
Yeah, you get some good skiing there, I hear.
And if the Para-US ever gets a para water polo team, I would love to get back to that. It's been taken off, and it's becoming a big thing, just not here yet. Fingers crossed, we get our acts together in America and get that water polo.
Oh, that's awesome. And then what's going on? Tell us about Romp, because you've recently partnered with Romp.
Yes. Yeah. So actually, at the end of January, I became Romp's events and outreach manager. I've loved every minute working with them. I work on their fundraising and their campaigns. We are in the middle of mobility May, so it is not too late. Anyone can join. We are our mobility while raising funds for people who wouldn't. So join, get your friend team, and help us give amputees.
Wonderful. And Sidney, if you had any advice for the folks who are new to being amputees, what would be your advice right now?
Yes. The best I've received is be okay with being creative. There's a long list of things that, nothing for me is impossible. I just have to maybe work a little in my way around these adaptability situations. Like Click Medical, understand that, and we all have to adjust. So the biggest piece of and go easy on yourself. You're not gonna stay and just walk out of the hospital. Like, everyone lost their limb differently. Don't compare yourself to others. Easier said than so guilty of this myself. It is really like just be open to trying new things, telling people you can make the best of a bad situation, and to do so.
And say yes to everything.
Yes. Just say yes. Doesn't matter what it is.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Let's see. So Click Medical says, Miss Sidney was our SBT gravel giveaway winner. She biked 37 miles and ended in the pouring rain. That is dedication right there. Guys, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to do our next giveaway, and then we're going to have Mr. Sidney tell his story. And Miss Sidney, I'm going to go ahead and put you in the green room just to see if we can help with the audio situation. But I'm going to have you there just in case anybody has any questions. We can bring you back on board. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So guys, I'm just going to put her in the green room. She's not off the show. So in case if you guys have any other questions for Miss Sidney, we'll bring her back on board. Let's see if it helps a little bit with the audio. In the meantime, guys, we're going to go ahead. We're going to bring you back for the end. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and try our second giveaway. So my handy dandy assistant from Click Medical, Jamie, is going to post a link. In that link, okay, you're going to scroll down and it's going to be a link to the new Click Medical website. They gave it a nice little makeover. So if you guys haven't been there in a while, you guys should go exploring there. Okay. And you're going to see a section that says, do you present with any of these issues with your socket? Okay. And there's several questions that they're asking you there. I'm going to wait till she posts the link. Jerry, can you hear us a little bit better now? Or Jill, can you hear us a little bit better now? Takes a minute or two for the answers to come in. All right, so Click Medical just posted the link right there, guys. Go to that link, okay? And I want you to tell me, of the questions that they ask you there, do you struggle with this, that, or the other? Tell me which question resonates most with you. Which is the struggle that you struggle with the most of the questions that they ask you in that link, and put it into the comments section. Kim, if you look up, Click Medical just posted a link there. Okay. So guys, take a look at that link, look at the questions they're asking you, and then let me know in the comments section which of those questions resonates most with you. And in the meantime, we're going to let Sidney Smith get started with his story. So Miss Sidney talked about how she had complications from Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and also with complex regional pain syndrome. And then Sidney, on the other end of the spectrum, you started out with Charcot-Marie tooth. So I know you're gonna tell us a little bit about that. And guys, I do want to make a distinction. There is a difference between Charcot-Marie tooth disease and Charcot foot. And we've done a couple of shows on this in the past there. So I just want to make that distinction now, that there is a difference between the two. All right, Sidney, I'm gonna zip it and I'm gonna let you take over for now.
Okay. Well, thank you. No, I appreciate the opportunity, Cosi, for having me on. But I guess I'll just start. And how far do you want me to go? Like what I had for breakfast this morning, or where are we ending this?
Well, start at the beginning, because it takes you the Charcot-Marie tooth takes you a little bit further back to the beginning for you.
Yes, it does. So Charcot-Marie tooth is a muscular dystrophy disease that is hereditary. However, in my case, I am the only one in my family that has this disease. My parents, my siblings, they weren't lucky enough to get this awesome disease. So when I was born with a normal body, just a real rundown. My hands work, my feet work just fine. And I didn't have any problems until I turned about 8 years old. On the playground, I started falling a lot, couldn't keep up with the kids. The doctors were looking at my feet and couldn't determine what was going on. And then when I turned 12, then the deformities started happening. My toes would hammer, my ankles would turn, and I get high arches. And that's when I was officially diagnosed, did some tests and so sorts. And that's when I was officially diagnosed with a disease called Charcot-Marie tooth. And so throughout my youth and teenage years and into the early stages of my adulthood, I struggled with this disease. I had lots of surgeries to try to fix them, just corrective surgeries to keep the ankles straight. And then eventually I got these braces. They kind of look like the Forrest Gump braces, if anyone's seen that movie. So ironically, if anyone's seen that movie, that's about right when I got the braces too. So at the playground, everybody said, "Run, Sidney, run," just like from the movie Run, Forrest, Run. And so I had these braces growing up, but even that, with the braces, they weren't working well. Eventually, I started getting ulcers and infections because the braces would just start wearing on my skin, and then I'd start breaking the bones. The feet would just deteriorate. It was the disease itself, Charcot-Marie tooth, people probably have heard of it because it's actually not that rare. But in some cases, some types in my scenario, it was pretty rare as far as the severity of it. And then eventually when I turned 33 years old, I went to the doctor and I said, I couldn't walk, couldn't do much, anything. I had a small family. At the time I had 2 kids and 1 on the way. And I was unable to do things that I wanted to do. I was just real frustrated and kind of angry a little bit with my scenario, thinking, life is not fair. Woe is me, that kind of talk. And I just went to the doctor and said, there's got to be more than life. And at this point, I I guess I was stubborn and I waited too long or whatnot, but the doctor says there's not much more we could do with your feet that's going to give you any mobility function. You know, my suggestion is that we amputate your legs. And so in 2015, we decided to amputate the first leg, and unfortunately, it didn't go so well. Shortly after that, I got an infection in the bone, and being a young amputee, I live in a small farming oil field town. Not a lot of, I don't know any amputees actually at this point. I just assumed, you know, feeling sick and having fevers was normal when you lose a limb. And little did I know I was getting this major infection that was eating my bones. And so when I finally went to the doctor again after being so sick, that's when they decided that they needed to amputate higher. And at that point, we made a decision that we're going to just do the other leg at the same time. So, like I said, in 2015, I became a double amputee. I'm below the knee. One's a little bit higher, just because we had to make some changes there, and that's kind of the beginning of the amputation story.
And part 2 of life happened.
Yeah.
So how was that? I mean, you had 3 children. Undergoing major recovery and having to relearn mobility. So can you talk to us a little bit about your experiences as a young father?
Yeah, that was the hard part, just because, I was the breadwinner, and I was really worried that was I going to do the things I love, such as, being in the outdoors and fishing and playing with my kids. Was I going to hold a job? Is my wife going to find me attractive? Am I going to, have a life, or is it just going to be surgery after surgery after surgery? Yeah. And, one thing that I remember when I think everyone has this experience when they first notice them, your limbs are gone. I remember looking under the sheets and I was like, after coming to, and I'm, crying a little bit. And my wife came into the room. She's like, it's okay. And I'm telling my wife, I'm so sorry, honey, you got to deal with me as a caretaker now, and all this mushy stuff. And I says, if you want to leave me, you can do that. I totally understand. And my wife looked at me, she says, I could, but now that you're a double amputee, I hear that handicap parking is pretty good. So,
I like your wife.
We're going to stick it out, because that handicap parking is pretty amazing. But no, my wife has always been my anchor with that kind of stuff. And at that point, it gave me a spark to, to look at life, to be more positive, to try to do everything the doctor said. Kind of like Sydney's story. I love that she said, you're going to be a yes person, and that's, you're going to, and not be afraid to do that, because that really is what it takes. And I was in the hospital when I was making a kind of, I guess, a rational decision during recovery and rehabilitation. I was watching on TV the Iron Man, and that's when I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. And people thought I was crazy. They thought I needed some adjustment to my pain pills. I was talking crazy, but I was just super, I guess, inspired to do this race. And so that's where it all began. That, it was a big goal. Obviously it was huge, but I wanted to take it step by step. I wanted to learn how to walk with prosthetics, learn how to swim, to bike, to run, step by step, and do my first 5K. And then, years go by and I did my first triathlon, months go by and did my first triathlon, and then worked my way up to the point where I finally got to participate in the Ironman, and 4 years later.
That's amazing. Now, this is the part where I'm going to pause for a moment, because I know that a lot of times from my viewers, I've gotten comments of, wow, this person's amazing, but I feel discouraged because I see them doing all these amazing things. And what they don't see is the beginning part and what it took to get to the amazing things. Mm-hmm. So can you talk to us a little bit about those first weeks and months after the surgery of getting back to your mobility again, like what that entailed?
Yeah, no, I have on my phone some of the the questions, and some of them, there was a few comments that I feel, bad because I totally, I feel for some of the people. Like I'm not trying to brag. I honestly feel blessed that, my scenario worked out, with my spouse and so forth. And I know that's not the case for everybody. And I feel your pain, and I'm deeply sorry that this has happened to you. But I'll tell you, it hasn't been, for me, all roses and unicorns and glitter. There was some attempts of suicide through the process, just because I felt as a man that I was a burden to people. And so I've wanted to stop that and basically make a selfless decision that, hey, I'm not going to cause pain to other people and have to be a financial burden and have to worry about those things. And for me, it was kind of ironic during this whole time of learning to walk. At the same time, my daughter, who's now 10 years old, she was learning to walk at the same time. And the thought process came to my mind is, here's this little girl trying to learn to walk, and she doesn't care that her dad is learning to walk too. She loves me just who I am. And that's the thing about children. They're just so darn accepting. And I love that about them. And they love you for who you are. And it's not fair. Obviously at the time I blamed God for this disease that I've gotten, but it was unfair to my kids if they had a dad that committed suicide, and they don't deserve that. And so I didn't want that for them to have that life. I may have had a life where it's going to be, struggles or not the best cards, so to speak, but my kids don't deserve that. And so that's what was really got me out of the dark spot mentally. And when you get out of that dark spot mentally, the physical part's the easy part. Not always. There's some days that were tougher than others, but the physical part was really, or the mental part was really what put you up to the next day and the next day.
Thank you.
I know that's kind of a long way to answer your question.
No, but I think people need to hear that, because oftentimes I hear, I'm not an amputee myself. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and that's its own story chapter there, but I'm not an amputee, and I cannot relate to my viewers and patients the way that you can. And I think many times they need to hear this, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they need to hear the reality of it and to know that they're not the only ones going through it and that there is a way out of it. And I think what you said there about your duty as a father, your duty to the people in your life that loved you, that to take that other route would have not been the best thing for your family.
No.
So I'm so glad that you're here today to tell us this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And we have Jerry. Jerry says, I'm just starting to walk as a bilateral amputee, and it's tough, but I'm determined to work hard, and you give me hope, Sidney. And guys, we know, if you've been on the show, we know that the statistics for bilaterals who walk are sometimes a little grim. But what I say to folks is, do you want to be a part of that 10%? So it's about 10% of bilateral amputees who are functional ambulators and getting out there and living life and doing all the mobility. And it's a question of, do you want to be a part of that 10%? So we got a lot of wonderful certified BAMF. And I had to think about that in my head for a moment as to what that meant. I was like, oh, right. I get it now.
Thank you. And way to go, Jerry. You keep it up.
That's right.
Get out of bed every day. That's what you got to do.
That's right. And then Emily said there was a couple on the wall on NBC where the husband was a quad amputee from a roadside bomb overseas, and he learned to walk with his child as well. That's a beautiful iron sharpens iron. There we go. So tell us a little bit about just the nuts and bolts of those first few months. Were you receiving physical therapy? What were the obstacles that you ran into, with 2 new sockets? You were having to learn to use 2 new sockets at the same time.
I think the hardest part is, like, I went to work right afterwards because we needed the money and so forth. And so the hard part was getting to work, learning to, getting around in the crutches. My job was an office job. I managed a hotel. It's just a small one here in town. And the biggest pain was just like, because it was an office job and I couldn't wear shorts. And so I had to wear pants all the time. And so it was just like just with my limbs shrinking all the time, having to constantly go to the bathroom, adding socks, taking off socks, trying to find that like perfect fit. Because as a double amputee, when I'm, fresh on both limbs, I can't baby one, because if I baby one, the other one's going to feel it. And then I go back and forth. It's monotonous. Sometimes I wish I'd be like, golly, I'm so jealous of the single leg amputees. And I'm just like, it's like losing a pinky toe. Come on, guys. But I'm not. I definitely know that it's not in that case. But yeah, I tell you, it's the first, I'd say the first year really was just a battle of trying to figure that out. And I really wish I had something like the click at the time, because it would save me a lot of trips to get to the boys' bathroom, pull down my pants, put on the socks, put them back on, and so forth. So it would have been nice. That was probably the biggest pain I remember so many times. So, and then just, the Revo Fit, if we're, since we kind of talked a little bit about the click system, and running has been where I've, even today, because my limb still changes a little bit when I run with the pressure and drinking water and then sweating and that's helped. First thing in the morning, even, I've been amputee now 7 years. First thing in the morning, everything's still puffy, and it's nice to not feel, it always hurts the worst in the morning. But then if it's not super tight, then, within an hour or so, then it hurts again. So it's nice to have that click system.
So when did you run into click? When did you learn about Click Medical?
It was actually through Amputee Blood Runners. They're out of Tennessee.
Yes, they were on my show a couple months back.
Yeah, that's where it all began. And so, when I was training for the Ironman, they heard my story, and that's where I got connected with them and got into running blades. And at the time, they just called me and said, "Hey, do you want to try this click system? It's the newest, greatest, sexiest thing out there right now." And so I was like, it's like, oh, it's one more part I have to worry about, but I had this weird paranoia about weight. It's like, oh, the more weight that you have on your leg, the harder it is to run long distance. But it's super light. And when I went out to Nashville and they installed it, and it was pretty sick. Like
I was gonna say, it probably took weight off because you didn't have to wear as many socks.
Yeah, no, that was the ticket. And I guess I'm stubborn now. I'm 40 years old. I'm, I guess, considered old. Change is hard for some people at my age. And so, I had a hard time, I guess, exploring something new. It's like, well, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Right.
And so trying out the click system was like, oh, this is nice. I do admit it is a nice setup.
And are you using the new click reel, or are you using the BOA dial?
I'm using both. So
both.
this one's the click, and then the other one's the dial.
Okay. And then I see you have the gap design.
Yes. I love that. I do.
Very nice.
So.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then I have a void. You can kind of tell.
Okay.
I have voids inside that side because that's where I have a kind of a bony limb, and that's where most of my impact hits anyway. So.
Got it. Liz is saying 40 is old. You're still a spring chicken, Sydney. I'm sorry. Let's see. Emily says, my swelling is always better in the morning after my legs have been elevated for a while. And that is, a little bit more particular to lymphedema. But yes, they're usually, for most folks, their limb is a little bit more swollen in the morning because of the rebound effect, that after you've been wearing your prosthesis all day long and then you take it off at night, and there's just a little bit of a rebound swelling. So sometimes I tell folks to wear their shrinkers at night, and that also can sometimes help with the swelling in the morning. Richard says, I have t-shirts that old. Okay, so Van Gregory says, sorry, I just joined. Did you say the percentage rate for bilaterals to be fully ambulatory is only around 10%? Yes, but I will say that with an asterisk on it, Van Gregory. I actually have a really, really hard time finding research on bilateral amputees. That's a statistic that was around back when I was first starting to practice 20 years ago. And I can tell you, not from any official research, but just, in working with the limb loss community over years, that's kind of an accurate representation. That being said, the 10% that I see that are functional ambulators, it's not necessarily because they had a physical advantage. It's because they are determined and they are, as one person put it, BAMFs. Okay. The people I've worked with some bilateral amputees myself that they came into my clinic and on the inside I'm going, oh dear, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this person to walk again, but their sheer determination got them walking. And it's something that I see more often in my bilateral patients than I've seen in my unilateral, just the sheer determination to say, we're going to make this work and we're going to make it happen. So I put that percentage out there, not to discourage people or not to scare people, but it's to say there is a 10% out there. So do you want to be a part of that 10%? And that's how I phrase it. All right, let me see if there's any other questions down here. So tell us a little bit, Therese. Tom says, wait till you hit 60 and I'm running the NYC marathon in November.
Woo, baby, get it. Get it.
Right there. Now, guys, for those of you who are not familiar with the Ironman, Sidney, this is where you are going to have to brag a little bit. Tell us the distances and what it is that you do for an Ironman.
Oh, like for training altogether?
Oh, no. Like what the race entails.
Oh, okay.
Because there's some folks out there, they might hear the word Ironman, but they don't understand, like, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, when I say the Ironman to like kids, when I go speak at schools and stuff like that, they think of the Marvel comic thing. And they get super confused. No, the Ironman is I guess the Banff, since we're on that topic of triathlons. It is a 2.4 mile swim, and then you bike for 112 miles, and then you run for 26.2 miles.
You finish it up with a marathon.
Finish it up, just top it off. You got to do it under 17 hours. That is the ticket, all in one day. And they don't really make an exception for challenged athletes. You still have to go that whole distance.
That's incredible. I've known friends of mine who are able-bodied athletes, and they were training for almost a year just to finish that race. So I can only imagine your training schedule must have been insane.
Yeah, no, you nailed it on the head. It was straight up a whole year from top to bottom. Every day, except for I take a day off on Sundays to rest, but just eating a ton of calories. Training during lunch break, sleeping a lot because you're just so exhausted. It ended up being like a part-time job, and I felt bad because I missed out on a lot of cool family vacations because I was, out there while they're playing on the lake. I'm out on the corner swimming, in circles.
So guys, we're going to go ahead and put in our third giveaway. So Jamie is going to put a link up for us. And when you get this link, and I'll put it up too, I think I've got it here. Haha, I've got it. All right. When you go to this link, sorry, I'm like flipping through screens here. All right. So both Click Medical and I, we posted the same link. You can pick either link, guys. Okay. Go to this link. You're going to see a picture of Sidney, and he's going to look a little different because he's got a big old grizzly beard going on right there in that picture, right? Go ahead and click on that picture, and it tells a little story about Sidney. And I want you to tell me, what is it that the Click Medical socket has allowed him to do? His quote, and I want you to put it in the comment section. And by the way, our last one, oh my gosh, I forgot to say, Tom, you're the winner for the last giveaway. Sorry. Tom, so for your marathon, your NYC marathon, you're going to take your Click Medical mug with you.
The whole time. I got to carry it the whole marathon.
There you go. So Theo is asking, how do you train range of motion? So from a physical therapy standpoint, that's obviously a big one right there, right? We want mobility, and then with strengthening, we create stability, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to range of motion, it's finding out where the person is missing range of motion, or in cases like Miss Sidney, where she might have had too much range of motion due to her Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, okay? So finding out where the deficiencies are in the range of motion. But as I've gotten older as a therapist, as I've become an old fart therapist, I've learned to just kind of look at a person individually and say, okay, if this person is missing range of motion, is it contributing to any problems? Okay, because as our bodies age, our bodies kind of have their unique way of accommodating and compensating for things. Sometimes those compensations are good. Sometimes those compensations are not good. So let's just take hip flexor contraction, right? Do you have any issues with hip flexor tightness, Sidney?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, all the time, right?
I know I think it's a common thing among bilaterals from those that I talk to.
Yes.
So.
Bilaterals, unilaterals, below the knee, above the knee, hip flexor tightness is a problem. Okay. Or it's present. It's present. But with some of my amputees, they may only have 5 degrees of hip flexor tightness. I might not necessarily be too concerned about that. Okay. For me, I take a look at the gait pattern. I take a look to see if they're having any issues with pain or any issues with gait deviations. And is it coming from the hip flexor tightness or not? Someone who's an athlete like Sidney, then yeah, you want to have a lot of good range there, because especially when you're doing your runs, you want to be able to have a lot of good hip range of motion there available. And when it comes to training it, Theo, I have a lot of tricks in my bag, but I love to do dynamic stretching. Okay, so basically that means that you're stretching while you're doing movement in the muscle. Okay, and I'm actually going to bring Miss Sidney back on board. All right, so we got Miss Sidney back on board. Hopefully we'll try to see if the audio is working a little bit better there. Thank you for waiting. So Sidney, one of our viewers was asking about how to train range of motion. And I was explaining a little bit about how when there's tightness, especially in the hip flexors, we work on dynamic stretching and everything like that. But for you, you're on the opposite end of that spectrum. So do you find that with Ehlers-Danlos, I always mispronounce that one, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that you have issues with too much range of motion and you have to protect those joints?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my therapy after surgery was actually to strengthen those muscles and everything along that line, because I had range of motion that like goes and stretches. I've already got everything you would aim for if you were strength. So for me, it looks like a lot of strengthening, a lot of to not use your hamstrings, not use, you know, those muscles that I don't have anymore. So it's a lot of just strengthening for me.
Here we go. And then Mr. Sidney, what is it that you do for your range of motion training, like for your hip flexor tightness? What are some of your favorite exercises?
Okay. So, first of all, like stretching is a huge one. And, I actually sounds kind of silly, but when I swim, I don't swim with prosthetics, and I'm out in the water with all the people that do the aerobics, you know. I'm sitting there and I'm jogging in the water to just open
trying
up.
to
Yeah, wow. Yeah, like just kind of wading in the water.
That's
and just what it's doing though, it's like I'm not putting pressure on my limbs, but it's just getting that muscle memory going to get that range. And while I'm doing that, every time I extend, I don't know, it's hard to see in this video, to extend in that motion, I'm like using that to stretch, and it just feels so good right there on that hip bone, to get that range motion. And just the more and more I'm, I guess, jogging in the water, it helps. And if you can't do that, like I would suggest like having some floaties or something like that, and then just using your limb, just going to town. I mean, it sounds silly. I just made it up, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, feels pretty good.
No, I've never heard that before, and I like it. I like it very much. That's a great one, especially with the water. So let's see. Lino was asking, do we have a link for dynamic stretching? Yes. So Lino, right here, I have a program that I created. It has over 150 exercises for above and below the knee amputees. And in it, I have a huge section on flexibility there. So you can click on that link, and there's videos, and there's also books available as well. So yeah, Sean is agreeing definitely with the water aerobics, and Jerry says water would be awesome for stretching. And guys, I live in Florida, so for us, it's really easy. We have year-round access to pools and beaches. So I am constantly sending patients over to the YMCA for their water aerobics course, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Plus, I hear they get the best gossip there in those groups.
Love
all the ladies there. So Mike says the adjustment of tightening the socket gives me a better fit with the light bulb shape of my socket. Yep, because one quick click can make all the difference in the world. And definitely for folks who have, especially the knee disarticulations and the Symes amputation, that they have kind of like a bulbous end, that can make it kind of tough to get into that socket. Having a socket like the Click Medical, especially with like a hinge design, really makes it a lot easier to get in there.
My limb is a Ertl procedure. It had an Erdl procedure, so it looks kind of like a light bulb.
So it's interesting. Do you have Erdl on both?
One broke when it got infected.
Okay.
One's still there, and the other one broke.
And do you find, I'm just curious, I don't meet too many folks with the Erdl procedure. Do you find that you have the advantage on the one that's intact for the weight bearing into it?
Honestly, it sometimes.
Okay.
And sometimes no.
Okay.
The only reason why I like it's hard to say because the Erdl procedure one is a longer limb, so there's less surface areas.
Got it.
So I'm not. I would say if the option's there, go for it. But if don't let that be an excuse. So like, oh, I don't have an Erdl, so I can't run. So I would say absolutely not. There's ways around everything like that.
Okay. And we just got our third winner, Kimberly Richards. You're the winner for the third giveaway. So you're going to get a share. I'm going to write your name down here to make sure we don't forget. Guys, for our 3 winners, we have Michael Davies, Tom McIntyre, and Kim Richards. Please, please, please email me. I'll put my email up there. Okay. Email me and send me your addresses, and we're going to send you the Yeti Click Medical mug. Yes? All right. I'm scrolling through here. Sydney said, Sydney is stud, local inspiration and hero. So Sydney, Mr. Sydney, tell us a little bit about what you're working on now with your hunting organization, which I think is just so cool. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, no, I appreciate it. So I guess one of the things, that was my goal to do is the things I've always wanted to do, or hobbies, basically take it to the next level. And that was hunting. And when I'm out hunting and hiking in the woods, I'm not thinking about putting on my legs or that whole process. And so just that whole idea of, getting into the outdoors is the medicine to escape from the struggles of life. And that's where we have a nonprofit here in Utah and Texas and a few other states called Disabled Outdoorsmen. And it's a nonprofit organization where we take people out of all disabilities, chair-bound or amputations, in getting into the outdoors. We do big events where we do for example, in a couple of weeks, we're doing a disabled youth shed hunt where they go out finding antlers on the ground. And we have a special spot that we have reserved for these kids. And then in the fall, we take out a lot of people hunting, camping, fishing. And in the winter, we have a big, huge ice fishing event where we had about over 200 people to our event out here where I live, and we introduce them to the ice and get them their first fish on the ice.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So people who want to learn more about the Disabled Outdoorsmen, where can they go?
They can go to disabledoutdoorsmanusa.com, or my chapter here in Utah is doutah.org.
doutah.org. And I'm actually typing in as well both of your Instagram handles. So for Miss Sydney, this is her Instagram handle. And guys, you really would love to follow these folks. It's really just amazing. There we go. And then for Mr. Sydney, he's on at Try No Feet. Did I get those right, guys? Did I get your handles right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Click Medical, Jamie went ahead and posted for the Disabled Outdoorsman website there. Okay, there. Oh, she posted 2 of them. Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, we're good to go there. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this evening, but I do want to say a very special thank you to Sydney Marshburn and Sidney Smith, both of the Sydneys this evening. Thank you guys for sharing your stories with us this evening, and for being so open and honest about everything that you went through and how you're working with everything right now. And a special thank you to Click Medical. I absolutely love working with your team, and thank you so much for the continued support that you've shown this show for the past almost 2 years now. So guys, if you do have any questions about the Click Medical RevoFit socket, if you have any extra questions for the Sydneys, you're more than welcome to email me directly, and I will find these answers for you. So guys, thank you once again. Thank you for letting us be a part of your lives this evening, and we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Cosi.